Greetings and salutations. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever this may find you in the world, in the universe. I hope, I pray your day, your moment as well, that whatever you're facing, that God is going to guide you and to assist you in all things, because no matter how it flows, all things will be well. Listen, let's talk about it. So today may get kind of heavy, but it's a conversation that's required. So some of you may be aware of the current conversation that is going on with pastoral leadership in the city of Niagara Falls. Um, I've been graced with the opportunity to provide a space for individuals to be able to tell their story. Um, this is not a time to check nobody and try to be vile or try to push your own agenda. It's a space to tell a story for what it is. It is just conversation. And however the Lord see fit, however things flow, it's how they flow. So joining me today is our special guest, Jelani Brinson, who is rocking with us, as well as uh, Juju. Oh, that's not Juju, but and my sister, Jessica Mitchell. They're all rocking with me today because we understand that this space is important, not just for someone telling their story, but for those who are here, those who need to tell their story, and the boldness for healing to take place. So before I introduce our main guest, um, Juju, introduce yourself. Say hi to the people.
I am Nurse J Lo, a nurse, an artist, an advocate um, for um, for folks who've experienced abuse. I'm also a survivor of of sexual abuse and physical abuse, mental abuse, and I'm just here to be supportive. And That's it.
Appreciate it.
I can't hear you.
Oh, did you lose me? Is
Okay,
that
yeah,
better?
there we go. We
Jessica,
got
you
you.
introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Jessica, former host of Fire 716, coming back eventually. I'm also I'm training as a mental health counselor, clinical mental health counselor, dealing with also spiritual and mental health counseling as well. I'm also a proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Um, I'm a chaplain. I'm in church leadership. Kind of do. I don't sleep, but I'm also a survivor of some sexual molestation, and so I'm here as a support as well.
And I appreciate you, ladies, for joining and being a part. Jelani,
What's
go ahead
up?
and introduce yourself. Let us know what you got going on and who you are today.
I'm gonna keep it basic. I'm Jelani. I mean, of course, I'm from Niagara Falls originally. I live in Florida now, and I'm really just
Okay,
me.
no, valid, valid. So I'm just gonna be frank. I just can't be nothing else. So I know that recently there was some dialogue on Facebook regarding a young man by the name of Black China, and I happened to come across his video, but I also seen the status that you wrote,
Correct.
and those two things together really just pricked my heart. And I really want to take this time to hear your story. I want to hear your heart. I want to hear your experience. Um, and I don't come with any agenda. No agenda, no hidden motive, no just bashing of anyone. But I know the space is required. So if you don't mind just giving us a little bit of your history of your time in Niagara Falls, um, and growing up and getting into church. How was that for you?
I mean, for me, growing up was my grandparents. Uh, that's for me. That's just what it was. I remember my grandmother a little bit. but mainly my grandfather. And after a while, um, my aunt Vet and Jew, of course, and my cousins and whatever, or whoever I should say. Um, but for me, it was never really getting into much, just myself,
Mm,
um, or learning myself, I would say. Um, so I would say for the beginning or the middle of me being in Niagara Falls, or in being from there, I mean, it was good for the most part.
mhm. So, where did you get? wh- So, what was the thing that got you involved in church that got you connected into church?
So from what I remember, my grandparents were in the church, and I would have to say that my biological mom, is uh, who kept us in church. Um,
Mhm.
you know, so for me, that it's just simple as that. Kept us in, and I gravitated to it at a point in time that was my peace.
Got you, got you. Now, I hear you say that that point in time is your peace. Um, when did peace turn for you? Like when did it go from being your peace to now being involved into I'm gonna call it a relationship? Because I know that as leaders, originally our goal is to guide, to help, to build, to establish. But at some point, there was a turn in connection. Can you explain how that process went? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So for me, you know. I also remember, my Uncle Jerry, who was a pastor, but then I really just got more into it uh, with my cousin Joey, who passed away. Um,
Yeah.
but then, for me, sometimes it's like this is my cousin. You know, I view him differently, I guess, in a way. Not say I don't respect
Mhm.
him. I didn't respect him as a pastor, um, but sometimes, at least for me. Um, you can't necessarily, and I'm not saying it's not possible, but for me, um, I receive a prophecy or whatever different from someone from the outside, um,
Yes.
versus family who actually knows me. Because for me, is this God, really speaking, or is this my cousin or whoever speaking?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, so for me, it was I was introduced to uh, the pastor by some other people I'm not going to name, just so because I would rather them come out. So I'm gonna respect them with that one, uh, and that's where it started, and it just went downhill.
Wow. Wow. I didn't put these pieces together. So you mentioned Joey. So Joey Brinson. So what happens to
Correct.
be my spiritual father, authentically,
Okay.
Our,
that's
our
like
dad, that's our dad.
who we are. So to hear his name is just
Hmm.
to be a part of that entry, despite the what follows thereafter.
Correct.
Um, so
So Frank, I think I think I wanted to make sure that you understand hear what he was saying, that he came from that the Brinson is a large family.
yeah,
So he wasn't introduced to church, has always been a part of faith, and
yeah,
going to church has always been a part of his
I'm
family, you know.
born into this.
no, valid,
Yes.
valid, for sure, for sure, for
Yes.
sure. So now we got the situation where now I've been in church all my life. This is what we do. I got the prophetic word, but now I'm introduced to somebody, and now you said the phrase your words was it went downhill.
Correct.
And my question is, how did how did that happen? Like what? Because we well something that we a phrase that we use legally, I think is called grooming.
Mhm.
What's happening in this point where you can now identify things are going downhill?
All right. So I'm gonna say this: how honest do you want me?
No, be honest. And that's what this is. My name is Frank for a reason. Be frank. There's no
I
reason
get you.
to
So as I said, I was introduced to him by some other gentleman. Um, at that time when I was introduced to him, I would I was doing things I shouldn't have been doing, um, and they introduced me to him, and I thought that it would be a good thing. Um, so then, it started with, let's go to the gym. Are you hungry? Because you're you're not homeless, but you're technically homeless, and I'm watching you go house to house. Um, whether it was forced or on your own, and so that's where it started. But then, you know, it, that's where the grooming started.
Mhm.
And uh, you look tense. Let me give you a massage. So that's where everything went downhill.
Were
Um,
you
and
you a teenager or adolescent?
It started at, like, I want to say 16, at least I remember.
wow, I got water in my eyes because as a leader, you try your best to assist in the help, and to hear that a grooming has taken place and taken advantage of someone who is facing challenges disturbs me um, in my heart. And when it's done in such a way that is malicious, but it shows care, is really manipulation,
Hmm.
and
Well,
that is disheartening.
well, when
Just got a question.
no, I was gonna say when it comes to grooming, period, the person who's doing the grooming is always catching you in your most vulnerable state.
Mhm.
It's always the place of areas of when you're broken, and when you are open to looking for something. If you're looking for validation, if you're looking for somebody to just accept you for who you are, a lot of people come under the misconception that it starts sexual, and it
Mhm.
really doesn't. It's
Right.
really plaguing on somebody's brokenness and getting them comfortable to a space where you put them in a pedestal of admiration.
Yeah.
And then, well, I can't say no because this person did this, this, and this, and this for me. And I'll feel bad if I tell them this makes me uncomfortable because this person sacrificed this, this, and this for me.
Mm.
So, for those who are listening or may see this, I wanted them to actually understand how the grooming process happens. Just so if somebody is watching and is currently going through that, to kind of have awareness of what grooming actually looks like.
Yeah. My question is, how long did this go on for? How long was this
I want
relationship
to,
or connection?
if I could remember correctly, 18, 19, somewhere around there.
Wow. So about 2 years,
About 2 or 3 years.
2 3. Wow. Wow. Um, in the moment, how are you processing what's happening?
Um, in the moment, I'm shocked. I'm not knowing what to do. I'm second guessing things. Is this the correct thing to do?
Mhm.
So, like, for me, you know, like, just to be honest, like, um, back then I wasn't into, like, the sex and smoking weed, and I wasn't into that. Uh, I was delusional to that. Um, but then meeting people and learning different things, you know, um, like, just to put it out there, like, on my own, I didn't lose my virginity until I was 18. So it was weird to me.
Yeah.
Um, I did a lot of thinking, not sure. Um, at that time, I thought, this was like a getaway or a peaceful place.
Yeah.
Um, but then it started to bother me. And, I was telling someone um, that, one of my thoughts also were, maybe this is happening because I'm special, right?
Oh,
Um, but then when I heard other people, you know, going through the same thing, nothing special about me. You know, I'm. I guess you would say another number, right?
Wow. Yeah.
Did you know that other people were um having this intimate relationship with the person that you did at the time, or is it later on that you find out
I didn't find out until I want
at
to
the
say
end,
like 1920. That's when
Wow.
I found out.
years later?
Yeah.
Mhm. So what does that do to you? So we got second guessing, but now let's say we're 19 now. Realize that um, this has been ongoing. There are other people involved. You said the word "I'm no longer special." How does this shape you? Going into adulthood.
Um, for me, it was all right. So first off, when I view my family, just my last name in general, right?
Mhm.
Um, it holds a lot of weight, you know. And so for me, it was I have to be this strong person. I have to be, um, you know, tough at all times. I have to be a certain way. Um, there's really no time to cry and um, any of that. Um, I would me saying something is like one second. Me saying something is like an embarrassment. You know, who's gonna believe you? Like now, you know, who's gonna believe you? Who's gonna help you? Who's gonna do something? But then also scared that because I know how my cousins are, they're gonna kill somebody, and my cousin's gonna be in prison or potentially even lose their life for me saying something. Um, you know, um, even even my biological mom, for me, it's like I know she could be emotional with a lot of things,
Mhm.
and honestly, I don't like any of that. I hate it. I hate to see her cry, all of that. Um, so it's to me, it was she had enough she was going through or trying to do or whatever, whether it was within herself or whatever, in my family and so on. So it's just let's keep quiet.
No problem. So you fight to be strong for because you're Brinson. That name holds weight. You also refrain from because you got people who will defend from you. You also remain silent because you don't want to add any more pressure to your mother. So
Correct.
all these components are happening at the same time. When
Yeah.
is the first time that you make a decision to mention it at any point?
Mm. Um, I want to say I mentioned it like not until like I was 25, 27.
Wow. So let's take the timeline. I'm just taking you the story. So we got from 19, there's a conclusion, but we don't talk about it until about 25. That
Correct.
means in this 6 year gap between the first mention and something ending, what were the challenges that you had internally that existed during that time?
Um, Not knowing the correct way or what to do with my own kids.
Mm.
Um, you know, um, this doesn't feel right, but he's making it seem right because um, because there was another pastor who was in Niagara Falls who did the same thing. Um, you know, you know, just battling all these different demons. Um, how should I be? Uh, my father didn't live in New York, so um, you know, uh, 2010, my grandfather was gone, but I, my grandfather, for me, he didn't necessarily show how to be a man, but it
Mhm.
was more so, I'm your grandfather, I play with you, need some money, here you go, faith, trust, um, nothing bad, but, it's, I don't know.
But understand, because I get it. Nobody taught me how to, though you were present, not taught how to be. So there's a sentiment that I have there where I have an understanding, you know. But then we have a battle of a man who has children and unsure how to navigate well. So you're
Correct.
trying to figure it out. Um, do you think you made any errors in that time period from 19 to 25 that you think would have been different had certain things not occurred?
Um, that's something I still deal with because, in all honesty, um, I got two boys that's still there. Um,
Mhm.
but I made a decision to leave because uh, I was unhappy. I would see this person all the time, um, and at that time it was, and I didn't say anything to anybody, but at that time it was, let's take the kids, let's go. And because at that time uh, I wanted to be around my actual father, you know, uh, let's go to Texas. Um, but it didn't work out that way, so I went by myself.
Wow.
So I technically left.
Wow. So you run into
Wow.
this person
Mhm.
just in the community, being here, and the effect is that you're unhappy. This is a question I want to ask. Even after things concluded, was there ever like a reach out to see if there was still room or space or access?
Yeah, yeah. I was getting messages on Facebook, and I posted it. Um, he would send me my clothes that he took off for me. Um, I'm just gonna I don't remember. I'm not looking at the message right now, but basically, showing like, hey, I still got these archives, whatever he said. You know, um, sending me receipts of things. There was a time I was so desperate, and I just really wanted to see my dad. He paid for my flight there and back.
Wow.
So yeah, reminded me of all that.
Wow. Wow. So even though the the thing ended, there were still things happening.
Correct.
So now there's triggers, there's flashbacks, and this is something that we do as men, even to the opposite sex, is to see how much space we have
Mm-hmm.
inside somebody else's life. So while you're trying to live on and advance, there are still these reminders coming to you, um, to the point where now the option is to leave. And when you left, there's two children, two sons left behind. That be
Correct.
proper understanding?
Correct.
Which, now tell me if I'm wrong. What makes me very frustrated because of the actions of one that's supposed to lead you into better now put you in a predicament where you don't have peace and you have to run,
Correct.
you have to go, um, and it affects the children. And then
Correct.
the toil is, was that a mistake? Was that the right choice?
I'll be honest. Um, because of the situation, I've had the opportunity to be in relationships with some wonderful people, um, but I ruined them because of this. I didn't
Yeah.
know how to handle them, and some of them I'm still friends on Facebook with, and um, we don't speak, but I show up on their, I look at their Facebook, see how they're doing, um,
Mhm.
and I'm sure they'll run into this video, but yeah.
Um, so now that you've left, so did you leave at 25? Did you leave? When did you leave Niagara Falls?
I want to say, I don't remember how old, but like maybe 2018,
Okay.
somewhere around there.
So what
No, I take that
now
back.
would go ahead.
Nah, yeah, it was before then.
Gotcha.
I want to say like
But
maybe
you were
2008.
going back. You were going back and forth, right? You
Correct.
were there, then you came back, and you were here
Correct.
for a while. Then you moved around. So
Yep.
there was a lot of
Correct.
movement going on during this time. You know.
Wow. So now we have this spiritual leader who is supposed to be a representative. He does uh, foul things, grooming, reaching out. There's just space. You're moving around, trying to figure out what what perspective or what does that do to you now as a person when it comes to church? Because there's a challenge with I know who my family is, but I also had this experience.
Hmm.
So how does church? Um,
So that's actually when I start uh, backing away from the church. I don't want to say running, but backing away. Um, it was slowly, but you know, it wasn't overnight. Um, he played a big part of it, but he's honestly not the only pastor. There's more than
yeah,
two. So
I know those who are watching ready for him to be messy. You probably want to demand a name. That's at his timing, and if he sees fit. What I will say is that um, it is heartbreaking, a disappointment. It is to to know that this has occurred and repeatedly among several different people who are still present in our community.
correct.
And
So
go ahead.
I'll be honest. For me, I've been molested by five pastors. So the very last one was actually in Dallas, Texas. Um, and I was told not to say anything by my father. But my stepmother, Patricia Hall, she handled it all for me. She had my back, and to this day, she still does. I don't go to church. I don't plan on it. For me, it's not a safe place no more.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you ever feel like when you reach the full place of healing, that you can separate church from this incident? Well, these incidents.
I don't know. I look at the black community. I look at the Christians. I look at the Catholics. It's it's not just in our church. It's in all the churches. So can I really? There's been uh, someone, I don't know if y'all remember, or if y'all know. I know Jew knows, Jermaine Hale, um, but his ex-wife, Marquita. Uh, we rekindled, and when I moved to Florida, and she took me to her church. Loved the church, so on. Pastor's wonderful, very very blunt and honest. And he's genuine, but I don't live in that city. Um, I'm not looking for another church.
Yeah.
Um,
And let me. I want to say this too, Frank. That I have known. You know, it's gonna take me a minute to be talking about Jelani, but I have known him. I mean, I don't know, maybe.
Forever.
I mean, a very long time. And so I say all this to say what when his mom moved back to Niagara Falls, we got in contact. She got in contact with me, and um saw that she brought the kids over, and there was Sean. Jelani was such a little man. He was a little man. He was the eldest. He's the oldest out of his siblings. Always, always was just a good kid, very responsible. But he had this love. He had a heart after God. In 1998, if you do the math, 1998, you'll know how old you were. But at that time, even before we started going to church together, there was a calling on his life to be a minister. When I tell you, it was so heavy on him, and I know that probably was a lot of responsibility for a young person, but he carried this mantle. He was a little. He was a young child, but he had this old spirit about him, and he had a heart after God. And so there, time went on, and he began to embrace what people were speaking to him, even before Bishop had spoken to his life. That it was already spoken to his life that he was going to be a minister. And so prior to being 16 years old, he was an adolescent. We were all in the
Wow.
same church. It was a bunch of young people, you know, when Bishop began, I remember, we moved around a couple of buildings, and when we finally found the church home, I remember there washing the walls, and my twins are 24, and they were about maybe 3 or 4 years old when we started going to church there. Um, and there were so he would have been at an adolescence, and at that time there was a young minister there, and he had spoken about his challenges that he had, um, with a past history of drugs and alcohol, as well as um, um, homosexuality. And so he was embraced. Um, he began to train. I think we was a deacon, and then he was like a minister, and he was put over like the youth ministry. So at that time we had a lot of young people, and so parents, especially single parents or working parents, the church is home. That's a safe place, rather. we
Yes.
they we want our children at church on Friday night, instead of out doing whatever. We want them there on Wednesday night. We want them there on Monday. You know what I'm saying? We want our kids involved. And so, summer programs, and all kind of things, goes on at church. So the parents that are at work, they drop their children off. It's a safe place, right? um so long before at 16, when the sexual violation occurred, 16, that is statutory rape. Period. You can't consent at 16. Legally, you cannot consent. But the grooming started before 16 because
Mhm.
you're around. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that person is familiar. You know what I'm saying? And so that now they built this foundation. You see this person, your parents like this person, your family like this person. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so it is the grooming starts long. It's a long process. It's not no, well, go get you some ice cream, buy you some sneakers, and then it doesn't happen. And it's hurtful that I was speaking to Jelani before, and I was saying to him, as a parent, when your child comes to you, no matter what their age is, when they come to you and they tell you something happened under your watch, there's a guilt. There's immediately there's anger, there's pain, but there's a guilt and a responsibility that we take. That we how do we didn't see it? How do we miss this? You know what I'm saying? First, it may be denied that you don't even want to. Your mind automatically rejects that thing. That's a natural response,
Yeah.
denial, right? And so then when you begin to comprehend, then there's this guilt and this shame that the parent has that they weren't there to protect their child. And so we don't want to talk about the intimate details and this and that. Parenting doesn't come with a book.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think also this
Go
is
ahead. Go
why
ahead.
I'm a huge advocate as a clinician for testing for people who are working with children. There are certain mental health tests that I believe should be requirements in churches because it weeds out those who have those proclivities. And because it's such a pushback in a lot of old traditional churches that they don't want to address mental health, and it's kind of just like this is the conversation that doesn't want to be had because God can heal it with prayer. It kind of puts sometimes youth in danger because we are so quick to put people to work
Yeah.
Yeah.
without doing research, and it's like nobody's gonna sit down and take 100-word, like 100-question. There's short versions of it that I know. I know of someone who took a test and they couldn't work in a house full of females, and they were a female because the test proved the proclivities that they had towards women.
Yeah.
And
I
so
think that no,
when
continue.
when I look at his story, it makes me want to push the narrative more because we need to have this kind of protection so we don't continue to keep having these stories. And it's not always about the devil and spirits and we're gonna cast this demon out of this person. That's why they're dealing with mental health. Well, no, we need to vet and to put these people through processes so this story is not a continued reaccounting of a story.
Right. So now I'm about to get a little bit aggressive.
Go ahead.
But don't judge me. Because now, mind you, that the story that came out through Black China was a storyline.
Hot China.
Hot China, Hot China, Black China.
Two different people. And don't get us sued.
Right.
Somebody gonna edit that and I'm gonna be in trouble. Like, he said what? But what I can say is that a conversation was brought up 10 plus years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been no vetting of a situation. And if it has been, what has been the repercussion? Now I'm about to get in trouble. So y'all don't see me no more. Just know that they try to come get me. Because we now have, and has had for some time, I'm gonna email them after Jesus get up, regarding the ministerial council. Because there has to be something in place that when there is a report, when there is something mentioned, that it is vetted, that it is dealt with accordingly. Because now, forgive me, my preacher coming on, we have a young man who had, and others who have an encounter that has plagued them, that has affected their life, how they navigate, and how they move. And there are years that we cannot recover.
No.
There are experiences that we cannot take back.
No.
There's an impression and a point of view with the church that only God can.
Yeah.
Now, because I am assistant pastor in development, Niagara Falls, bishops, pastors, apostles, we have to do our due diligence to preserve and protect. And I don't care who you are, because hearing this portion of the story, and mind you that you was gracious enough to hold out some intimate details. But we understand that this situation and others who can relate to the same situation have a damage that's done. And this damage is, I'm just be who I am. It's still something you're dealing with today.
Yes.
It affects your relationships. It's affected connection and
Intimacy of
go
that.
ahead.
Yes. Absolutely.
Fatherhood,
Yes.
sonship. Who am I? Am I enough? Where I go next? And for real, let's talk about it. Will somebody accept me now knowing my story?
Mm-hmm.
And can they handle it and also not trigger it
Right.
and not use it? And these are real components. Um,
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
and I don't know if there's anything else you want to share.
You know, I'll
Jelani,
say
but the floor
this.
is yours.
I got you. I'll say this. I've been talking to my stepmother uh, about this as well. Um, and you know, one thing she said is, and it makes so much sense. I think I told you, everybody gets background checks. Why not pastors?
Right.
Do you, like, honestly, why would it be bad? Do you? It should be up to the people in the church if I want to listen to a registered sex offender or whoever, um,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
just
Absolutely.
just as well as anyone else, you know,
Absolutely.
um, whether it's a, and I'm being honest, I don't care about having a straight pastor, a homosexual pastor, a Arab pastor, whatever, right? But I should have the opportunity and the choice to, if I want.
To be under that leadership, you know.
Absolutely.
Correct.
It's very
Because if
true.
I don't know, I'm
That's
going to
valid.
church and trust the Lord and so on and so on. But can I trust my child with you? You don't know. And
Yeah.
then what? Next thing you know, God, why?
Yeah.
And then we go to,
And
to work to work to work in the school district. You have um to get to have excuse me, it's a not just a local police check, but it's a what do you call it?
federal.
It's a federal check. It's a federal check, right? And so, what Jessica was saying, right? I'm saying it right, right? I don't
Yeah.
want to be disrespectful. That so not just police checks, because folks don't, a lot of folks go through life and
We go
they don't
walk.
have police contact, right? So screenings,
Mm.
and so and also when you the Bible says, God tells us to shun the very look of sin, right?
Mhm.
If it doesn't look right to someone, like me being a single woman, if I was a minister or in leadership, leaving out, saying I was doing counseling at midnight, leaving out someone's house at midnight, or someone leaving out my house, right? And so it's not appropriate
Yeah.
to at that time, right? Unless I'm leaving the hospital, right? So even with Hot China had mentioned that and I know some things because I can remember his mother being very upset about her son um living with a pastor, although if I'm not mistaken, why things didn't go in a legal manner, because her child was like the age of consent to, wasn't 18. I don't think quite 18 yet, but even if the child was 18 or 17, the child has legal consent over their body, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to live with their parent. They could, get exonerated and all of these things, right? But when the mother said that it was a problem for her 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 child to be living with an adult man in leadership, that when she went to the leadership, that something should have been done. Something should have been done. Investigated, looked into, checked. Absolutely. Do I think it was inappropriate, or is, and will always be in my eyes, for a young person, to be living with a single, either it's the same sex or opposite sex. It's just not. There's other resources. Let me connect you to a shelter where they have a social worker, they have a psychiatrist, there's just some kind of counseling services. There's other things, to other resources outside of me. You understand? So
And there's
I'm
a
there.
level.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah, I was just saying I'm there as your spiritual leader, but I don't have a degree in counseling, or you understand what I'm saying, social work, or however way it just doesn't. It is. I just I
It is.
don't. Hmm?
It is unwise,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely unwise.
and especially when you are aware of your own personal proclivities,
Right.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
though all those there's a greater component than just the proclivity, but there's the grooming aspect and these things. But when you're trying to assist somebody for healing and advancement and these things, we get life is life, but you have to use wisdom, you have to use other resources, and there has to be a level of communication and access with the parent. Where we at? What's going on? And
Yes,
my
yeah.
house ain't it.
Yeah.
No,
And let
it
me
is.
just be honest, because ain't nobody perfect. And if
No,
I'm trying to help you evolve, I really want to show you my best self, but I also want to be the space to be transparent. But to bring you into my intimate space where my challenges exist, and I bring you into it, oh, what a shame.
Well, I
Our
kind of
part.
want to address something that
Go ahead.
Jelani said. He said, if other people can get background checks, why not the church? And being Jessica and having bad experiences with church and good, I've noticed one thing: church lacks workers. So if
true,
they find people that are willing to work,
true,
they're
true.
not. And it's a sad, and this is not all churches, but
Right.
if there's not a plethora of people to do the work, and you have somebody that's willing to work and they look like they're safe, they look like they're passionate, we don't take the same stance that we would do in the regular world than we
Yeah.
do with the church world. Because it's like, oh, especially it's a man willing to work, it's men willing to work, where if any church you walk into it, 80% of the church is women.
For the woman, yeah. So we
So
welcome the man that shows up. We welcome that
when the
man.
man shows up, it's like, oh, we got a willing work. Oh, he got this
Yeah.
potential. Oh, we see what's in him in the future. And not to say that he's not called, because that's not my call to make. I'm not gonna never tell a person that they're not called. But unfortunately, because of I feel like church as a whole, because of the desperation of needing,
Yeah.
we bypass the necessity for the needing. At this moment, we need men. We need this. Da da da. So we just gonna, we gonna pray for discernment. We gonna see if they okay, and sometimes ignore the little red flag. Oh, okay, but because he's a willing worker, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, this stature has caused a major disservice to a lot of people. I would rather be solid with 6 people
Hello.
doing the work than to put somebody in this kind of risk because we're so
Yes.
desperate for help.
Right.
Yeah.
But see, even with that though, besides he's a worker, oh, he's cute. He's putting this much money into the church. He has a beautiful wife. All these different things. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it looks legit. But for me, I'm not really a Tyler Perry fan, but I like watching that show The Oval. Uh I don't know if y'all have seen it, but okay, it's basically about presidents and so on. But what
Yeah.
happens behind the closed doors of these presidents and so on, you know? And for me, that's what it is. You know, what what happens behind closed doors, none of us really know, unless you're the one going through it. You know.
What I'll say to that is that I think the doors at this point are closed but open. And I say that because I'm now just be the preacher that I am. Because we have an inkling and an idea, but we choose to pretend like that's not even happening. But we know. And we are aware, but we quick to gossip, but we're not bold enough to address it straight on. I see you and something don't sit right here. I'm gonna be bold enough to address you. And I'm spiritual. There is a spirit of discernment that you can dismiss. Oh, no, get out there. That ain't my business. No, because you can see it and you chose not to address it or deal with it. You're held accountable. Why didn't you bring, even if you wasn't sure, bring it to your leadership? And if your leadership don't do their due diligence, they got to be called to.
But most churches have a covering, right? That minister, that pastor have a covering. He has to answer to someone, right?
But the part about that is a lot of times the covering is covering. It's like, honestly, it's like a church. Some places it's like a church structure of hurting people, unfortunately,
sweeping things under the rug. So I'm going to say this: just like that we have domestic violence awareness and this awareness and that awareness, right? And so, we as the body of Christ, need to open our eyes. And so when you see that man or that female who is they have no history of a relationship, or some folks can be married with a covering, right? But when you see that person, all they want to be involved in is with children. We need to. I need to, baby. When I tell you, my spidey senses go off. If you don't have a relationship with other adults and you gravitating just towards the children, and you want to take the children with, and then so they begin to want to take all the kids, and then they begin to single out a group of children, and then that groups get smaller and it's maybe one or two individuals. You know what I'm saying? And so that is. We need folks to be more educated. We need our leaders to, even if it's I want to mention this, and I'm not trying to get off track, but there was a young man in church, and he was pursuing to be a minister, but he was carrying on secret relationships with the women in the church. Now, mind you, the women were single. He's a single man, but he was carrying on these silent relationships with women. And so my issue was, hey, when I'm talking to a friend of mine was talking to him, and I said, why are you his dirty secret? Like, you are two single people. You can date openly. What is the secret? And so the secret came out when one woman, she decided to speak, and then another one spoke up. And so when they went to the leader of the church, one would think that he would be set down, that some kind of discussion, some kind of accountability should have been made. But the leader listened to him, and he was smooth and cunning and a man of distinguish and all of these things. And he went in there. It was like he had seduced the leader. And and had twisted it that these women, he's a single, good-looking man. All these women are throwing themselves at him. He has, President Clinton said, I did not have relations with that woman until that woman came up with that dress with the DNA evidence. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we don't. We folks know. Ushers see things. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying
Yeah.
people seeing things. People seeing things.
Okay,
And can
but
you?
when do you say?
What you say?
Okay, but when do you say? To me, it's just like the police, right? You got your chief, sergeant, so on, so on. If I'm a normal officer and my sergeant or whoever, my lieutenant, my chief is doing something wrong, do I speak up?
Uh,
And for me, it's the same with the church. If you are saying something wrong, I don't care if it's the pastor. He wrong. Say something.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And you have to. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because your silence makes it seem that it's okay. You won't
Hmm.
get away with it. I can slide. Somebody else is silent. And then we have years of silence and so many more victims to the behavior. I'd rather you watch this. I'd rather you say something and be wrong. But this is what I saw. This is how I processed it. We
Yeah.
vetted, and it's not that. Versus you not to say anything. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because the church has done damage. Period. When I say the church, the bride of Christ, the people have done damage to the people. And some people have taken it and said nothing. So what happens? They continue. We have a responsibility to protect women and children. Widows, children
Mhm.
ought to be protected. You
Yes.
are impressionable. The kingdom of God is like unto children. Anything is possible. The imagination is big. But for the bride, the people, to conduct themselves in a manner that causes harm, distasteful. But now, as we become aware, like you said, it's nothing new. But in this time, becoming aware, there has to be a consequence for your decisions.
Hmm.
Yes, there's grace. Yes, there's love. But those things is not absent of dealing with the consequences of your actions. You may still be called, you may still be chosen, but you got consequences, and it's not here. I don't want to rob you, Jelani, of any piece of your story that you still want to share.
Um,
So I'm gonna yield you the floor again
I
to
got you.
express anything you want to express, and we're here for it because I got some aggression to get out. I
I
don't want to.
got you. No, you could. But I'll tell you things I do remember. Um, well, first, I'm gonna say because I've read a lot of comments as well. Uh, not directly to me, but some about me and others involved. At least for the ones that have came out. Uh, Whoever watching, you wasn't there. Um, but I wonder, and I told you, and I know what she told me, but I still listen and so on. You have a pharmacist, right? How do you know he's not treating himself for anything? How do you know all the medication in his home he's not treating something to cover something up, or at least attempt? How do you know no one has caught anything? And because they were too embarrassed to come out or didn't know who to talk to, they're not dealing with something now because of him. So now you have more pain and hurt and dealing with, um, as they say, life sentences because
Yeah,
of someone else. You know.
yeah,
So my only thing is, I don't honestly, I don't want his apology. I I don't want anybody to touch him. But for me, if it was completely up to me, you could, like you said, I mean, you could be a pastor somewhere else, not here, um, and you wouldn't be around any kids. I don't. It's been years since I've been in the falls, um, but that would be my decision.
Yeah.
And even for the people who speak on this, um, or speak on us, the ones who have came out, I guarantee you, while they are talking about us and saying things didn't happen and we were in the wrong place at the wrong time and so on, I guarantee you that they have a family member who's went through the same thing and they're looking at that comment. And now you just made them so uncomfortable that now they don't even want to come out.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, and I know for a fact, because I've been told already, I'm not because of this. Any questions? I mean, I'll answer whoever.
It's just a
For
shame that victim blaming is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
It really it bothers my soul that victim blaming has become a real thing, and as somebody who's been through, not necessarily with the church, but I had to lead my abuser to Christ before they died. And listen, it's a different kind of maturity. um,
Mm-hmm.
but I was blamed. Why didn't you say something sooner? What was wrong with you?
yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
like, people lose the insight of when you're in that vulnerable place and your life is being threatened, or you're told stuff like people are not going to believe you.
Mm-hmm.
You embrace that because you essentially feel like you have no defense. And I think we have to, as a whole, listen and don't be so. Oh well, that little girl. She was always fast. She was always wearing them short shorts. That she was also a little girl. You know what I'm saying? So I think as a community, especially a black community, I'm gonna just call it out, a black community, we really have to stop victim blaming.
yeah,
Because I work in mental health, and I have kids who want to kill themselves on a daily basis
Yes. Yeah.
because their parents or their family, well, you should have said, you waited to this long.
They pull
Da-da-da-da-da.
that.
You feeling suicidal, but you didn't tell nobody nothing for years. And I have to tell these parents, a trauma response is a trauma response.
yeah,
And the person will close up and not want to share. And then when they finally get the boldness to tell you, you blame them for not saying something sooner. It's not about when they told you, it's about the trauma they experienced.
yes, yes,
And we have to stop, we have to flip this narrative and start becoming a support to those who are feeling bold enough to come out.
yeah. And there's a responsibility because you said, us culturally, we sweep it under the rug,
Hmm?
and then we take that same culture into church, which is now double sweeping under the rug. So now here we are, where what goes on in my house stays in my house, but what's happening in the house is causing issues, challenges, difficulties, and it's trauma. And I think I'm gonna just go ahead and be who I am. There is grace, but you weren't there. There is redemption, but there are consequences to our action. And even inside the grace of God, even inside the love of God, there are consequences to our action. And a warning has gone out based on somebody else's post to continue in this behavior. You have to handle the consequences of your action. And wisdom is a good time to have a seat. It's a good time to get up off that place and deal with, not run from, not disappear until it blows over again.
Deal with it like we
Because
did.
what's happening now is that it was an idea that it blew over. But here we are again, stirring up a conversation that was stirred up a while back. Because you have to give an account for the things you've done and the damage you caused. Talked about that this morning. I made some decisions that were vile and foul, but I had to deal with the consequences. And I had to speak to those people who I did wrong or did dirty. Now I'm gonna go ahead and be who I am. Jelani can't be nothing else. Because one thing that does not fall to the ground is the word of God, period. Your execution as a minister, as a servant, to do what God told you to do may come in a way that is unorthodox. It does not fit the mold or the tradition that you've been accustomed to. But you will be. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I hear it now. You will be.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
What he told you to be, not because of any trauma issue, the church, because that's what he said. But it will not fit the mold or the idea of what people assume it to be. I'm not sure what this conversation yields. Like I said, I have no agenda, but be open to more interviews, more conversation, because you don't even know it, but you're becoming what he said, even while not understanding how it works out. So my encouragement to you is be open to how things flow for you. I'm a preacher. So it's just
You're good.
you know, Joey is he the master prophet. I'm in development. No. And I open up my contact. I'm here. Holla at me. I'm real unorthodox. I probably won't get in trouble for this, but so what? But I thank you for being bold enough to tell the components of your story. And if you got more, let me know, because don't let me shut you down. Then be like,
Oh, he got more. I don't want to be speaking for. I don't want to speak for you, but what I do want to say, I am. I think it's we are overdue for walking in truth.
Yes.
Allowing the spirit of truth to speak. With the Me Too movements and pulling off the sheath of, everybody has cameras and stuff, right? We complain about those things, but we've also been privileged to hit in conversations and people's truth, right? And so, the way that Hot China decided to go on his platform and release information, it may not been the way that this one would have done it or that one would have done it, but what it has done was open the door for other folks to open up. So other people began to reach out, and then Jelani had made a post just to say, hey, he didn't have to speak up. This is not a lie. I had this experience, and other people have reached out to him. Some things he may have, there may be young people that was around at the time, and he questioned things and didn't know things, but people have reached out to confirm things. Some people want to, just to let him know that he was not by himself, and others may, do want to tell their story, and I was just saying to him that, a circus can develop after all of this, right? Everybody's running. They want to hear, they want the tea, right? They want to just they want to hear enough so they can go repeat the story. But when it's time to knock on doors and to show up places, right? you're gonna look behind you and it was 1,000 or 2, 4, 5,000 people that was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But when it's time to go knock on those doors, or if it's time for you to go stand, you're gonna look behind you and it's only gonna be a few. You understand? So just to be careful of, not getting caught up in these. And I reached out to Hot China as well. I did reach out to Hot China that um if your purpose is just to publicly expose, then that's what you've accomplished. But if you're pursuing um reprimand from ministry or a criminal pursuit, there's a manner to go about things. You understand?
Absolutely.
Public opinion is not public court. And so there's some people who reached out, who said that they were 16 years old when inappropriate criminal behavior took place. You 16, you cannot consent
Yeah.
to be intimate with a grown person. So that is I'm not sure if that's a federal law, but I know that's in New York State. You cannot give consent. And so for the folks who perhaps met the person at 16 and then there wasn't this intimacy until they were the age of consent to 17, 18 years old, there is still a manner to that you can address things, without it being in the public court, because public court is not court. You understand?
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I am. It is painful and hurtful to hear um, because right now, we got to use the proper terms, the allegations that were made, young people speaking their truth as they know it to be. Folks are coming up receipts with messages and whatever else they have. But I'm glad that the people are opening their mouth. I'm glad. I was molested when I was seven to about 9 years old. And the person who molested me, when I was about in my later 20s, the same filthy, disgusting person. I thank God that he's no longer on this earth, but he ended up raping, I think, the child. I think at the time she was 7 or 8 years old, but he got convicted. But I didn't even have the words, the dialogue. I remember talking to my mother years later, and she was like, well, why you didn't tell me? I mean, I'm 7, 8 years old. I'm thinking I'm waking up and I've urinated on myself. I don't know how to communicate that. I know the bed's not wet, but I'm not understanding why my underclothes is wet. You understand? So you don't have kids don't have the dialogue. And then there's the shame, the child now feels filthy and disgusting. They think that, they do little slight things in front of the parents, and the child may think that the parent is in agreement, what's going on, but I thank God. I think about the decades that went by and how many other children did this person, violate in that manner. But it took a long time, but I think I thank God that he was convicted, and I rejoiced when he died. I'm not gonna tell you no lie. I did.
I
I
was,
mean,
I was just gonna say to Jelani, I know you said you didn't want an apology,
uh,
but being who I am, I'm also a
mhm.
leader as well. I apologize on behalf of the church for not protecting you. I apologize on behalf of the church for not seeing you, not addressing it, and covering it up. And from this moment on, I'm praying coverage over your children
Amen. Amen.
because
Amen.
this will not be a generational thing in your life.
Jesus.
And so, being
Jesus.
like I said, I'm gonna just be me because that's just who I am. I'm sorry that the church did not protect you, but God is also was also with you, and I know that's hard to say. But like, but dang, because I went through the same thing. God, you were supposed to be with me when this was happening, But I'm sorry on behalf of the church for every person who ignored the red flag, for every person that walked by and knew, for every person that person bragged to and they didn't say nothing to. I am sorry. But I'm praying, even though you know you're not rocking with it, I'm literally praying God's protection over your children that this will not be generational.
Let me say, I'm not saying I don't believe stepping in the church ain't for me.
Mm-hmm.
At least right now.
I got you.
You know.
Yeah. But I'm
Um,
sorry on behalf of that. I'm not the one who did it, obviously, but
right,
I'm
right.
sorry on behalf of that because
And,
sometimes the healing starts even with apology from not the person that gives it.
and I hear you.
Yeah, it takes time.
Um,
I'm not
I
trying to, throw it on you and be
no
like,
no no no
cool
no
now.
no. You good. You good. I hear you. For me, it's why should I apologize for something I didn't do? You know.
Because
Um,
Jesus did on the cross. He said, forgive
Like,
them,
now.
but they know not what they do. I can't help it. I'm a kingdom kid because, and I take that, and I said it as a joke, but
I know what you mean.
he did. And
Yeah.
sometimes, and this is just experience I had, sometimes even apology for a person that didn't do it gives you a different kind of space. And
Yeah,
I
they're gonna
take
be mad.
that from the book.
Yeah, they're gonna be mad at you, Jess. They're gonna watch this tomorrow and Rose like, no, get him.
And I mean,
But
Well,
that's fine.
they're
They
gonna
can
be mad
come
at both of
find
y'all.
me because I'm a
no,
huge
but
advocate. Part of me wanting to go into mental health and do it was to disrupt and to
Right.
challenge and to be like, people, we need to put these protocols in place. We need to do these kind of things to protect people so they can come for me. That's fine. And they
You,
know Elder Frank, so they know what church I go to.
yeah,
So,
I think
but
that there is a desire to probably be more ratchet in execution. Expectation to be more raunchy and more aggressive. But like I told you that I don't have that agenda. It's a space to have open dialogue, tell your story authentically. Um, and I'm not pressed about the comments. I'm not pressed about the calls
right.
I'll get because, like I say all the time, if you're gonna hold the people accountable, you got to hold the leadership accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just period. And as things continue to, watch what I'm about to say, re-unfold, and those individuals are bold enough to come forward, we will be here for that conversation, for that experience, and it is what it is. And I have no problem. And they told me to ask if the one church if they was gonna fire him, and I told her, uh, I said I see, but what I would say is wisdom would say take a seat.
So,
Go ahead. Just I know you got to go soon,
yeah,
so
dude.
uh,
go
uh,
ahead.
I mean, if you need to, it's cool. But again, I don't want nobody to put their hands on you. Don't get yourself in
Um,
trouble. Um, I like I told you, I was never gonna say anything. But
mm,
when I kept being told it didn't happen, you were in the wrong place,
was-
and you know all these other different things. Um, I said, you know what? Fine. Uh, the beast is woken. You know, they say when you make posts, put a name on it. So I did,
yeah,
and I have been pictures as well. These are the people, um, and I've thought about it for a long time. If I say something, because I'm a caring person, if I say something, these people can lose their job, their family, and then I'm like, forget it. Not my words, but forget it. You didn't care about me and mine, so I don't care about yours.
wow,
Um, as far as those people, right?
yes,
But for y'all and others, it's y'all deserve to know. You got kids, you got nieces, nephews, so on, so on. I mean, Niagara Falls is big, but not that big, right? Um, so you never know who um, the next victim. Who's he been dealing with right now? Um, someone sent me a post or a screenshot of the last status that was posted by this person, and I'm not gonna lie, it's been a minute since I prayed, um, but I prayed today
Come on.
because it was protect that person, because only one person was tagged in that post, and that one person is the only one that hearted that status, and it made me wonder: are you okay?
Wow.
You know, because I believe, yeah, the target may be young, but I believe those are not the only ones. Um, I also believe if I guess if I started, I'm just gonna say at 16, and I can play these mind games with you for years and years and years. I got you while you grown as well, you know. And I don't know that person. I don't know if that's what has happened, but I prayed. You know, um, but that's really just it for me. I mean, I don't feel anything. I just felt like people should know.
Hmm.
Um, I wish. I mean, I did get the chance to um, talk to my cousin honestly, because I was in Texas actually, and I've been hesitating to call Joey, hesitating
Hmm.
to tell him. And the time I went to go call him and tell him, that's when I found out he was gone.
Wow.
Um, so that was more feelings I had to deal with, you
Wow.
know. So I mean, I don't know, you know. I just need
And a lot
everybody.
of those young people that was around, a lot of those young people that was around at that time, um, I see them now, and a lot of them are um, having sexual identity
Yeah.
issues,
Yeah.
um, on drugs, um, been to prison. Like it's a lot of carnage that is not theirs. Just
Yeah.
lives just been interrupted. I don't want to say destroyed, but absolutely interrupted. The purpose
Absolutely.
and plans and the goals and the dreams that they've had, and you know, just I see that group, those group of kids around that age group that was hanging around at that time, um, and I look at them and my heart just breaks without knowing. I knew something happened, and it was. I mean, we're talking about 5 or 6 young people, if not more, who was all in this group of young people, and
Yeah.
Jelani, I
Yeah.
do have to go, but if you
Okay,
need
wait.
support,
Before you go, I got something to say to you.
yes, sir.
Oh, I got a challenge for all three of y'all.
Okay.
It's not a hard challenge because you never know what people need to hear, right?
Hmm.
Outside the church, in the church, sometimes somebody just needs to hear simple words of "I love you." It don't matter who it is.
well,
Walking in the
I love you.
walk,
You know I.
walk. No, I'm not saying me. You
Well,
walking in the.
I do.
Oh, I know you do. I know you. Even if you just walking in the store, somebody might need to hear that. We often judge people because of how they look, their
Yeah.
situations, and so on. But that's you don't know their mental. They might just need to just hear that.
I'll
You never.
definitely take that challenge.
Challenge
Okay.
accepted. Challenge
Huh.
accepted.
You
Yeah.
do need
Wow.
Right.
additional support.
I got you.
Frank knows how to get in contact with me. You done made a friend.
Bro.
I got you.
And she good. She educated. And she knows what she's doing.
Listen,
Me, I'd be like,
you made a friend.
what you
Your
say?
cousin was like a father to me.
No problem.
And so you done made a friend. I will be here to support off camera.
Oh, right.
So if you need, he can get you my information, but I do have to go.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
All right. I
but
got
we
you.
will talk again.
Appreciate you.
No
Thank
problem.
Appreciate you,
You
Jess.
guys have a good night.
You too.
You
So,
too, bro. See, I'm gonna edit it out. She didn't say at night. We in the morning. Help us, no valid. So I commend you for being bold enough, being willing to come forward and to, I'm gonna use this word because I'm churchy, deposit your story unto us. And it is my hope that others are encouraged to come forward as well to tell their story. It is my hope that healing takes place in fullness. This is what I say. Not that you don't recall, but the sting, the effect of it won't hit as hard always. Um, may life yield you success, may balance in all things. And get out of here and see the spirit be talking. That you obey the unction that you've been sensing since forever. That whatever the Lord say do, you do. Whatever He say move, you move. For those who are watching, like Frank is just churchy. Wherever I go, it is what it is. I really thank you, Juju, for reaching out. She knew me since my foot was crooked. It's still crooked, but it's good. It's good. Any last word, Juju, Jelani, before we get ready to head out of here?
No, just talk less and listen more to your kids.
Yeah,
That's it.
I take that. I take that. As a father of three, uh, absolutely, absolutely. Juju, anything you wanna release?
that when folks, I'm sure that this is gonna go out um, into the atmosphere and to complete what God has purposes to do, and that I hope that folks um, receive that this is a safe place. It's not a place of judgment, condemnation, blame, none of that. That we love you, we here for you, and that I believe you. I believe you. I believe you. If you say it's so, it is so.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I pull out
Listen,
receipts.
Yeah, I'm
what
a
you say?
victim advocate. What you say,
Say it
Shay?
again.
I said I pull out receipts.
Well, I know the folks do. You know what I'm saying? That's the biggest thing. Like I said, just coming in contact with, again, I was a nurse for many years, worked with children. Last job was working with Buffalo School District, and I'm a mandate reporter. And so and just in my I work with pediatric groups, and so I've seen children on psych floors, um, you know, um, and again with this victim blaming, an advocate is not there to cast judgment, but to provide a safe place for a child to open up their mouth, for a child, but a person to open up their mouth and speak, and to be heard, to be seen, and to be heard. And so I can say that I see you, I hear you. I pray that if you're looking for a safe place to reach out to Minister Frank, Pastor Frank.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you anybody want to share their story,
Reach out to me. You can inbox me. You can
Jelani,
email me. Um, you can call me. I'm the
let them
number.
on
Inbox me.
social platforms. Tell me your handle.
Yes.
You all on all social
So
platforms.
yes. So Fire 7166 Radio. We also have Frank Handley, Handley Holding Studio. So we do podcasting, those things. Reach out to me, holler at me, and we'll do what needs to be done. I say this as I say all the time. I hold no ties to no one but God. That's my A1 from day one. So sometimes my conversation can be unorthodox, or why would you? He's blessed me to do a thing, and I'm doing it. Jelani, thank you for your time. Thank you
Yeah.
for being present. Just be prepared, because just
Understood.
like you called for support, they might need you in the room. I'm just putting that
Understood.
out there. So
Understood.
be ready. All right. Listen, y'all
Understood.
be blessed. Y'all enjoy your day. Thank y'all for
So
listening to Just Conversations, and may God do what he do, because he's already done it. I'll holler at
understood.
you. Peace.
All right. Good night.
My job.